Good morning, everyone. We are so happy this morning that we're inside. For those of us that are experiencing the cold weather, we have one of our speakers is joining us from outside of Wisconsin. So maybe or maybe not, he might be sharing his temperature. But so happy that everybody is with us. Going through some of the things as I see people coming in here. I'm going to do a little running commentary so that we can let everybody in and no one misses any of the good stuff. My name is Patty Andreessen Shue. I'm with the Oshkosh Chamber of Commerce. I hail from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and have had the opportunity to work in our community and area and throughout the United States, and have come back here and excited to be here. We at the Chamber are so happy to have all of you joining us this morning, and those that are joining us virtually and are recorded, we will record this session as we do with our other webinars so that you can stream it and participate whenever it is a good time for you. The chat function will be operational and I'll be monitoring that. And if you have questions as we move forward, please just chat in there and I will be your voice and ask those questions for you. The gentlemen are happy to answer it as we go along. So with that said, I'd like to start off this morning introducing Terry from ABI, and then he's going to take it from there and really focus in on how we can use technology to return to work. With that, Terry.
Thank you, everybody. And again, I'm Terry from ABI Systems. I'm the Executive Account Manager for basically the northern half of Wisconsin. And with me is Don Mastro. He's our Executive VP. And Don is kind of be the master of ceremony and expert on this. We had a little conflict with Brad Sousa, so Don is pinch hitting for me. So, and to let you know, I live in Oshkosh. I work out of the Appleton office, and I've lived in Oshkosh for now 35 years. So I'll throw it over to Don.
Thanks, Terry. And my apologies to everyone. I'm not Terry Torson in my screen on my Zoom nameplate. I didn't change it, so my apologies. I'm also not Brad Sousa, so I must be some sort of an imposter today, but I'm going to do a really good job of impersonating Brad. Don Mastro, Vice President of Sales for all of ABI, located in Atlanta, Georgia. Grew up in Minnesota, so I know the Midwest. Been to the wonderful area in Oshkosh and Appleton in Green Bay with Terry, many great customers of ours. We appreciate the Chamber being part of this today. Excited to talk about what we're seeing in the marketplace is a dynamic that's been changing for, well, really to last March. It's almost going to be a year. We're all living it every day. And there's so many experiences I can share, Terry, I think with the group today, as I'm on with clients every week, whether it be in corporate, education, or government. It's happening all over America and all over the world with this pandemic. So Terry, we're looking forward to our time today.
Yeah, and it's something that I've experienced in the whole Fox Valley and all the way over to Wausau to Eau Claire, how the pandemic is affecting people and how companies are looking to get people back to work. What is it besides just getting them back to work? Why do they want to go back to work? What are they missing? So I'm going to share a little video clip here with you, and then we'll go back in and Don and I will show you a little overview. Are you getting audio or?
We don't see the picture. Are you using the share function, I'm assuming?
Yep. Okay, well, then we'll skip from that and we'll go right into our presentation.
Let's do that, Terry. We'll have a good interactive conversation, you and I. So you want to go ahead and show the slides, Terry?
Yep, working on it right now.
Down below is the share on the, I see some hand raising maybe too. We might want to get to some chats today. It'll be kind of fun.
Okay, the slides should be popping up. Everybody can see them.
Patty, are you still on with us? Patty, you want to weigh in, make sure we're getting the content out there?
I am on with you, and at this point, I don't see that you're sharing.
So maybe I can, Terry, and then tell me, because I'm pretty good at this usually. Let's
There
see
you
if I can.
go. Yep,
There
now
I
I'm
am.
seeing it, Don.
Wow. Maybe I'm kind of the expert here today, Terry. What's going on? I want to make sure we're getting you all the great training you need, right? Right? Kidding.
Well, there's some people you can train and some people you can't.
Well, I'm glad everybody can see it. So let me go ahead. Don Mastro, again, Vice President of Sales, AVI Systems. And we're going to make this pretty interactive. And Patty, please give us his chats as we go along. And Terry, I don't know if I could share the video later or not from my desktop, but I do want to at least have the conversation. 3 big trends shaping audiovisual and collaboration for the post-pandemic workforce. And we're seeing quite a bit of dynamics as the pandemic has really shifted us. And I'll talk about the steps throughout. We talk about this as a February initiative because things have changed 3 or 4 times over the last just about 12 months. So where are we in the journey? I'm going to chat about what the journeys look like for us so far and what we're seeing clients adapting to. The shifting purpose of the workplace, meaning what is the workplace looking for? A lot of people just don't know. They're trying to see, do I need a conference room? Do I need a classroom? What does a conference room look like? What does a classroom look like? Is it hybrid? What does remote learning look like? What does remote work look like? What does the workplace look like? The hybrid workforce, the shift in what we'll call the generational gap, starting with baby boomers like me all the way down to the millennial and Gen Z. Their expectations have changed. I think the pandemic has forced us to where we are today. And I'll go a little bit deeper in that as part of this presentation. And then policies that matter. What policies we think are going to drive adoption of hybrid collaboration, conferencing, communication, audiovisual, whatever we want to call these categories. All of you in the Oshkosh area, what you would refer to as communication technology. And then finally, the 3 pre-pandemic trends that we see are the most relevant right now. So let's and I'll go to the next slide. And what we're seeing with customers is it's really not a one size fits all for everyone. There's not a we think you need to do this, so do this. It's based on what we see the stakeholders of each organization, whether you're in state and local government or whether you're in education or corporate America, business to business or larger organizations, as we talk to all levels of organizations, it doesn't fit everybody every way. And I'll chat about that when we get down a path here. But I think that's what's really important is that we're going to be able to customize your requirements if there's a need in your organization. And thank you again for joining us today, where we can help and where maybe we can consult with you.
Well, Don,
go ahead,
yeah,
Terry.
one of the things I want to just let everybody know is that we found out in the time that we've actually been really concentrating on this and getting people back to work is there's not really a magic bullet that we can give everybody that's a solution for people to come back. And a lot of times we're finding out it's not really just a piece of equipment. It's also how we got to work with the company, the employees, and why they want to come back to work.
Good. Thank you, Terry. And then kind of where are we in the journey? So we've gone through this journey, and this journey's been since March of last year. I remember last time I was on a plane was March 19th. And frankly, I was only on one plane after that to go to our headquarters once. And I was somebody traveling all the time. And you know it, you see it every day in what we're going through in this pandemic. So we looked at things in several flavors. And I think it'll be important, Terry, again, if we get any chats, let's make sure people are asking questions. But I want to go back and forth to you. And you remember this as a seller for us. We kind of flipped our switch, we'll call it. Back in March, April, we were getting on weekly calls with our sales team talking about these steps that we're going through. The first step we thought was a flip the switch. People were sheltering at home and need to do virtual work. In fact, for those of you that have seen this yourselves, people were understanding, how do I use Zoom in this case? How do I use Microsoft Teams? How do I use Cisco WebEx? How do I use Google Meet? And what's interesting is the corporate facilities had shut down. And then as they were coming back, the executives had a really hard time pulling remote workers back in. And we were in this kind of damage control for the first 90 days or so, called flip the switch. Then the next was truly the return to work. And this recovery phase has been kind of a sheltered home, and then the next normal, we'll call it. And we're in that kind of summer of last year. We started our second half of the year, we started to see a lot of opportunity two ways. We saw it in corporate America, reshaping what their spaces are going to look like based on leases that were being maintained by developers and commercial brokers, and what that funding might look like to redevelop that space differently than what it had been in the past. And the same thing with the hybrid collaboration classroom. It was a different classroom environment. Everybody was remotely at home, and teachers wanted to get back into the classroom, some local, some had the option of being in the classroom or being at home. And again, I know most of you have been through this. A lot of you are parents with children, and I can only imagine how hard that is. I have children that are now out of school, so I haven't been going through this. It's been a very difficult time for a lot of people at home trying to work remotely back with their home office or their home school, their school or their government, state and local facility. So pending, what type of environments. In Wisconsin's been kind of a lockdown more environment, I think, and it's been more difficult for you. Some areas are more open. It just depends. That's why we said one size doesn't fit all, fit all. Now, the next generation we see is the next normal, which is post-social distancing. We still think this is going to have a great impact on facilities, different than what we saw in the past of 2019. And Terry, you're welcome to weigh in if there's anything you want to talk through these kind of 3 steps that we saw this last year with our customers.
Well, really, the flip the switch was really a massive fire drill that everybody had. How do I get people together? How do I get them to communicate? And it made some of these companies that nobody ever knew were around, like the Zooms and what was a team and all of this, and how can I get my communication back up where we are? We went to that side of the world during the flip the switch. The return to work, we're seeing it slowly coming back in. And I know that there's a lot of large employers around the area that their corporate offices, have 8 to 10 people in. And when is their return to work platform? When I've talked to a lot of these companies, and some of them are June, July, some of them are next year. But it's gotten to be a challenge, and we've experienced it a lot. And we're here to, work directly with people to show you what we found.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. And it's some of the indicators that we think people will return to the office. So here we are in February of 2021. We all thought that 2020 was this difficult year, and it is, and it has been for all of us. We thought, well, 2020 is over. January 1st came along. Everybody thought, oh, we got a new year. This is going to be better. Several changes in the government. However, what we found is it's a little bit more of the same. However, also, we see the trend line coming down. I track this myself personally, just because I want to feel a safe environment until I can go into a more public venue or into a airplane at some point. But here are the 4 things that we think are indicators that people will come back to the office, and then why the planning needs to take place prior to, because at some point this will happen, we hope, and what herd immunity will look like. And I talk a little bit of science with this as well, because that is impactful. So 4 things. It's a return to travel. We know that travel's down about, I would say, 60% since 2019 last year. I think it was down as low as 70% to, volume is, we only had 30% that were passengers. Now I think we were up to 40%, got a little higher over the holidays, which is why we saw the spike. And that goes back to us as human beings. Human beings want to be around each other. And when you think through that, the reason why we had a spike in cases is because people were tired. They want to see their families. If you think about that, how difficult that is alone. This is the emotional part of this, right? Is that people want to be back together. Kids want to go back to school and play and be in classrooms. Human beings want to get back in corporate education and government facilities and have relationships and communicate. This is a great platform called Zoom or Teams or WebEx or Google Meet. Great platforms to communicate. But looking at a flat screen all day, I do it every day, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's not as collaborative and interactive as it is with human touch. So return to travel is one. New leases or renewals. Well, I'll give some great examples we got all over the country. We just signed a project here in Atlanta as an example. We're building out a law firm in the largest tower going out. It's a project. The law firm knows they're going to get back. They have the lease tenant improvement funding into that. They have to build the facility. Microsoft is well down here as an example. As Microsoft's doing work all over the country, we're building out here. They needed to do the redevelopment of the space now as the lease is signed. And that needs to happen. A lot of projects were still in play because of the leases were getting done over time. And that really becomes either new leases or renewals. And then pervasive COVID-19 testing. If you remember, last March, April, testing was really not available in any kind of mass supply. Now you can go through a parking lot at BrandSmart in a line or any COVID testing facility, or Los Angeles Dodgers Stadium as an example in Los Angeles. You can get in a line and just get a test now, or you can go to a pharmacy and get a test as a drive-through. Much more pervasive today. So I think we've kind of knocked on that door a little better as people are trying to get back. And then returning to school. We've seen a start and a stop, back and forth when people are going to return to school and people are not going to return to school, when kids can or cannot. I think once we get that back and parents can start to be more collaborative, again, all goes back to the science. When science can take us to that point. And Terry, these are the 4 things that we're seeing on returning to the office. Anything you want to give some thought on that and experiences you're having in the Oshkosh market area?
Well, the big thing we're seeing is I'm seeing a lot more of the people getting the vaccinations into the COVID, and that's helping people really start to look, going back to school and actually going back to work. COVID testing in Oshkosh, we were lucky enough to have UW Oshkosh do the instant tests right there, and it was great. You schedule, you go in, here's your time, you get your test, in a half hour you come back out, if you're negative or positive. Leases, I'm seeing a lot of people that are looking to renew leases. I'm seeing buildings out there that are half occupied, quarter occupied. But the good news that I'm seeing on our side is we're seeing a lot of people that are preparing right now. They have their game plan ahead. They're looking to get people back in. They know that there's things that we're missing.
Right.
And the returning to school, I know my daughter's teacher, and she wants it. You can't communicate with the kids without being face-to-face, because you can only have the short time and you really lose the interaction.
Yeah, Terry, you brought up a good one, which is not on the slide, and that's the vaccine deployment. And obviously we saw the first deployments earlier this year. We know there's several candidates that have been approved, some other candidates to be approved. The more we get shots in arms, I think we're at 30 million right now, which is only a small part of the population, and to get herd immunity, again, back to the science, I think that's when we'll get the full comfort. Will it happen later in the year? Only science will tell us. And when these vaccines hit everybody's arms and people start to get healthy and feel safe, how much longer are we going to have masks on? When can we go to events? I think that's all impactful, but we are seeing a resurgence in opportunities for our industry to relook at the spaces and start getting ready for, I'll call it the hybrid workplace, the pandemic workplace, or the post-pandemic workplace, which could have a long-term effect. So, I want to talk about that for a second as a segue, is what's the shifting purpose of the workplace and what has changed? And I'm going to apply this to really the 3 big sectors, the corporate, education, and government. Those are really the 3 big sectors in that we're going to talk to today. So what we know is it's not just about productivity. So if you think about that, older workers are more likely to feel accomplished at the end of the day. Younger workers feel more stressed and report getting less work done if they're not interacting with a human being, with their coworker or co-teacher. And you think about this, came from the Gensler Research Institute relative to the baby boomers, the Gen X, the Gen Z, and millennials. So if you look at the first graphic, so I feel like I've made a difference, is you'll see 44%. They feel like a difference when it comes back to feeling accomplishment at the end of the day of what this pandemic looks like. And then I feel like I've completed the work I need to. I know what is expected of me. I think this human interface is necessary. Human beings want to be around each other and they want to be able to collaborate and communicate. You can see it's not just about productivity. It's about the sensitivity and reading each other in an area, whether it be a classroom or whether it be in a conferencing facility. More learning is done, more collaboration, more innovation. You think about how you can innovate a product or a technology set in our information technology industry or any industry. It's hard to do innovation via a video conference screen all the time. People do better on idea exchanging when they're in a common environment, which takes us kind of what we think is the new workplace is a meeting place. So we think the new workplace is a meeting place. What does that mean? So I'm a CEO. I used to present from an auditorium. I may not have that auditorium filled anymore. I'll probably need some level of virtual town hall production, which we provide as well. And there's actually an event on this afternoon, Terry, I'll talk about later, and previous events that we've done. We also want to have a briefing facility that we're going to bring executives in, we're going to bring managers in or directors and leaders, and they want to collaborate face to face. They want to have screens up for touch or interactive display. Also, they want to be able to pull in remote workers, but they want them in life size. Zoom may not always be the answer. There's technologies out there that can provide individual, almost like presence figures on a very large LED screen. We're doing that for Emory University today, where we've got 20 or 30 in an executive MBA program coming up live with independent video channels with audio and video pictures that they look more like they're in the room, almost kind of like a role we'll call telepresence of yesterday, only in a more recognizable environment and what a hybrid classroom looks like today. So I think that's really what we see, this ideation that's happening, the need to innovate, the need to have communication through human beings and human touch, not physical touch, but on touch relative being spaced out in a socially distanced environment. A conference room today might be, a 24 by 30, but there might only be 4, 5, or 6 people in there. And that room needs to be redeveloped, needs to be redesigned, needs to screen technology and the ability for remote video coming into the room. So what if the room was locked down with only one platform before COVID? Now we're having to go into law firms, and into a law firm here in Atlanta was all Cisco WebEx. We had to go in and reconfigure the interoperability into the room so Zoom would work, so Microsoft Teams would work, so other formats would work, and be easy for the executive team to collaborate near end and far end in a video collaboration. And again, Terry, anything you want to add here? I know we've done some work with Oshkosh Manufacturing up there and others last year, and you might want to share some of the successes we've had in the area.
Well, I know you're talking about this, it hits the Oshkosh Chamber directly. It's like they've been trying to find places to hold their events. But
right.
A lot of these rooms were designed pre-COVID, pre-Zoom, pre-Teams, and finding a room and a facility that has this type of infrastructure. And they've been lucky enough to be able to use some of our customers that we designed pre-COVID that still had this infrastructure, like Oshkosh Corp. They have large rooms that are open to people to use for events that are set and designed completely like that. And we just completed a project for CISA 6 in Oshkosh, but that room is also set up so that you can come in, use it, and you can use whatever platform. You're not locked into what was designed many years ago, and give the people on the far side the same experiences of people sitting in the conference room.
Yep. So we think big decisions and consensus building requires time and proximity, and that goes back to the human interface, the human interaction. Now, I will also say we're seeing a trend towards the ability for us to provide consultative services around the management of all these rooms. It should be so simple today in the new world to walk into the room just works. And then we've got all the analytics around the room usage. We know the uptime. We're getting alerts if there's a problem, that there's scheduling integration into every environment, whether it's what we call a very small room. We used to call them huddle rooms. Now they even call them like telephone rooms. That's a new term in the pandemic, post-pandemic community, that there'll be a conference room that might be more like what a huddle room was before, and then very large spaces for idea creation in larger areas. And you'll see that kind of on this part of the screen here. You'll see this is our corporate headquarters with our direct view LED up here, technology, people can gather in open spaces now and feel more comfortable in this environment. And obviously they're masked. You know, you need open communities like this or like this. And then, you know, this is kind of a cafe bar, right? How do we maintain a food area? And cafe are different today because we're worried about COVID and touching and germs and viruses being on surfaces. So this is being rethought through as well on how service is going to work for food services. So again, big decisions and consensus building are kind of time and also proximity in the space.
Yeah, Don, I want to throw in the other thing that people are forgetting about, and we see it a lot when you're going back to work, is do we want to touch a touch screen? Do I want to touch a remote control? And as we go through and look at that and talk about the schools and other places, you know, what do we got? We got some hand sanitizer to go down. You hope that last person cleaned up after they did. And how can we make it easy and not have to touch anything? But the other thing that people forget about is there's the general contact areas you have in your offices, like the refrigerator door, the coffee cups, the bathroom, the light switches. And we've really strived real hard to make it so that, hey, you can walk into a room, not have to touch anything and join the meeting. You can use your cell phone, or you can use a tablet or your PC to run the controls for the room.
So it
And
becomes a
people feel more
personal
careful.
touch, Terry.
Yep.
Personal touch or touchless, right?
Yes.
You know, we've developed technology. You've mentioned, Terry, we have our own app, and others have apps that work on our phones, right? Or could work on our pads. So it's personal to you, and you don't have to share it with others, whether it's corporate education or government applications. We call that our touchless control or personal control. So Terry, really glad you brought that up in this segment of the conversation. The other thing, and I brought this before, we will come together to see or experience something we just can't over video. Think about demonstrating technologies for customers. What if you're a manufacturing facility and you've got an executive briefing center and you need to be able to demonstrate what you have in your briefing center? Hard to do remotely over a video. You can do it. You know, you're kind of trying to demonstrate the equipment and you're doing over video conference, but you don't have that human interface around the technology of the service. So we see executive briefing centers and briefing facilities becoming a very much a reality in congregation of people as they come back and workers come back to the environment, and customers want to be able to visit the headquarters facility for a manufacturing application, as an example.
Well, yeah, Don, and ABI Appleton, we kind of jumped on getting back to the office very quick, probably faster than a lot of our offices because of the size and the spacing and how we designed it. But we've actually been working out of our office since June, because we needed the collaboration between the engineers, the installers, the technical people. We needed to have that communication that we found we were losing, and it was actually causing more time and more hurdles for us, where you can just walk over and have a conversation with someone and get this done quicker, faster.
And I think part of that, Terry, is it's fear. It's fear. And when the fear starts to subside, people don't want to get ill, and we get that. Terry's talking about how we obviously we wear face masks in our office all the time. We're around each other. We collaborate, we stay apart, but it says people feel more comfortable over time. Nobody's forcing anybody. It's going to be when the fear factor goes away. But I think the preparation of these spaces, and I think is pretty important. I just alluded to, I'm kind of my last slide here, is the priority of experience in briefing centers. I think that'll become very real, and I alluded to that. But Terry, like you said, we have to come in because we're building work for customers. We have engineers and technicians in Appleton that are in a rack fabrication facility. We're accepting equipment back to our docks. The engineers and you are collaborating with each other. You're keeping a distance apart. You're in an open space. You're not cramped in a small conference room. And we maintain that through mask mandate in our offices, and obviously using this little thing called Purell. So as hand sanitizer. So anyway, thanks, Terry, for that. We know that home needs to feel like it's in the workplace. And we've been helping executives in their homes. We just got a call, very large customer, Nestle Foods. Their CEO's having a hard time at home getting his systems to work we've deployed our teams. He lives out of Florida. We've deployed our teams to make sure his network's up. Our Maginium Solutions organization did the Microsoft Teams integration to make sure the network readiness and capacity was there, making sure that it was installed correctly, not only just the license itself, but also the production, kind of the dual monitor, the laptop, the keyboard, the mouse. We know that needs to happen at home, and there's home remedy systems. Not just ship a Logitech camera and a keyboard and a mouse, which is great technology, but maybe I need a better experience. Maybe I need a soundboard for a sound bar for an executive CEO. So we know that we can bring home back into the workplace. This is actually our facility in San Diego in our lobby. So Terry, I don't know if you want to talk any more about working from home and that shift at all and what you're seeing.
Well, it was, working from home is a different animal. And when we started with the Appleton office, I worked from home for 5 years. And we got this office built up. I moved back into the office, but a lot of our people, we work from home because the equipment we have. We understand that home can be as beneficial as the office, but there's just some things that you miss. You really miss the human contact, the relating. Yes, I can call Don up and I can tease him about Atlanta or whatever, but it's not as much as being face to face. And we've seen it a lot with like our vendors and some of our customers that are trying to do these type of events, and they're actually falling flat. People aren't attending them because they're getting what I call, for a lack of a better word, it's getting to be Zoom fatigue.
Yes.
Where people are really wanting to get back together, really wanting to socialize. And, in Wisconsin, we saw it when they opened up some of the restaurants and opened up some of the bars, that the places that went together and actually had spacing and they had people coming in, but there were still a lot of people still doing the carry out and delivery side of the world.
And Terry, I think that's what we're trying to prepare our client base for, is the resurgence of when people get back to work. And so now is the time to prepare based on what we saw as the immediate flip to switch early in the presentation today, where we had to hurry up and get everybody up and running at home. It's going to be, now we got to get back to work. And then I don't have the same experience I did at home. I need to replicate that at the workplace. And so that's what our role is at AVI Systems, to help you through that. And that gets us to the shifting purpose of the workplace. So it is be less about performing tasks and more about reconstructing a work community. It's where we will go to meet with people to find big ideas and innovation. The new workplace will create a desire to go back to the office because it will be different than it was before. It's not going to be just one big cube farm anymore. It's going to be kind of and we saw this trend before. If you've been to a renovated facility in a large organization that was very open, it provided a lot of community areas and open areas. I think that open environment becomes critical to do spacing. If there's going to be a closed environment, it needs to be a larger environment. I just think you're going to have larger areas so that people feel comfortable and not too close to each other. Once we get totally healed, then that space can still be utilized the way it is, because there's still going to be a hybrid form of people working from home and also in the workplace. So it's no more of a hybrid workforce than this. So this looks pretty cramped, right? This looks like what it used to be on the left, and not distance. That would what it was used to be before, but this is what it looks like on the right. And that individual needs to be pulled into that room, much like we've always seen with video, but it needs to be less, I think, employees in that space and more at home, but needs to be pulled into that space relatively easily, just like they were working from home. I think that was always the challenge, is individuals would feel intimidated by conferencing systems because it was too hard. Why can't I just use my PC? And that's why a lot of times we'll see bring your own device as an application by bringing your laptop into the room, and then have the remote user get pulled in pretty quickly, whether it's Zoom or Teams or Cisco WebEx. So And we're just one point, and then that gets back to really how this looks at home and how it should be the same look and feel as we bring it back in to the office environment. And Terry, I don't know if you want to share any experiences here as we talk about what that hybrid looks like. In this case is corporate and can be the same for education.
Yeah, and we've seen it. I've actually been in discussion with companies that we've done work with. The one that was most interesting for us was actually Secure Insurance.
Right.
We did their building. They had one room that was video conferencing because they never used it for video conferencing. They never had a need for it. And what they found is people are starting to come back is they're asking for video conferencing, but they're asking for video conferencing exactly like they had at home. They want that same experience. Maybe they want to do a video conference from their conference room. Maybe they want to do it right from their desk and bring the people in. But then if they need to, they can go to a breakout area and do some collaboration. That has exploded. And that's one of the things our customers are seeing. And they're being asked is, now when I go into a conference room, why does it have to be as difficult to use this room? Why can't it be as simple as what I'm doing on my computer?
One of the new features, and you'll see here's a soundbar right here underneath the screen. Well, new features we're seeing, this is Logitech in this case, could be any other platform, Poly, Cisco, Crestron. There's many platforms out there we can consult on. Is that now the ability to do proximity sensing and people counting. So now we have the analytical references to a monitoring platform. We built our own called Insight, which will allow us to say we've got too many people in this room. Frankly, it can even be outside the room on a display. So we'd have either a display, could be a scheduling panel, alert, we've got 3 people in this room, you're at limit. No more can enter this room. We've got videos on that, and Terry can share that. I think it might even be part of this presentation at the end. I can show you the spot for that. But so we're seeing touchless as an environment. We're seeing proximity sensing and people counting. It's built into the technology. It's becoming easier and easier. It's a no-touch launch or a one-touch launch, but again, from personal, so that you're not sharing of touches of areas that people should be touching together. So in this case, you'll see here's the bar here. See, people brought their own devices, and then here is a self-contained device if you wanted it to be, if it needed to have its own compute platform. So whether Zoom or Teams or Cisco is loaded up onto here, rather than bring your own device, you have that option as well. But this is all native into the design. And so what we want people to do is to focus on the work and not the technology, and join any meeting with equal contribution. So people don't feel intimidated by any one of the formats that are available, or even the environment they're in, whether it's at home or in the work or education workplace.
I'm going to throw out the one thing that, and I'm going to steal from one of Brad Sousa's quotes. There's a lot of things that customers are asking us to do, and also people tracking, but where did Don go in the building? Who did Don talk to? Don tested positive. How do I find out who Don communicated and possibly contaminated as he was positive? And that kind of gets into what Brad Sousa calls the creepy factor.
Yes.
How far do we want to go? But we have the capability to do that, and we have implemented it as far as walking into the office, coming up to the door, having your temperature taken, and not having a receptionist up front, but have your temperature taken, being able to log in with your phone, say who it is, who's coming, and send a chat or a communication up to the person, and they can go greet them. But if they have a temperature, to be able to not let them in, and same with the employees. We've implemented in a bunch of places around Oshkosh where we have temperature scanners, where it comes in, it does some facial rec, it knows who it is. If I came in, it would know that I tested, but if I just kept walking through, they could actually find where I'm at and get us out. So, it's really, the world is changing, and what we thought was Big Brother watching us is actually gotten to be a new norm right now.
So Terry, I really appreciate you bringing that point up, because it really segues us into the next section, and that's kind of policy. Because as you just mentioned, how far do we want to take it? We do want a people count, We want to make sure there's proximity sensing so people aren't too close together. But then are we doing COVID tracking? Can we? You call it the creepy factor. We have thermal sensing abilities and systems that we design for customers. Virtual receptionist. Well, we don't want to have a receptionist front. We want to have somebody virtually that would do the thermal sensing as well for temperature check, and then all that goes into analytics. So I'm glad you brought that up, Trey. Well, you will, because policies won't move the needle, but people will. And this brings us back to the three big things we talked about before. Hybrid is the new definition of the workforce. Workforce safety and redefining what meeting rooms are. And you see the wireless touch, and we talked about many of the applications here in this meeting today. And virtual and hybrid event experiences, that is a virtual hall event that a CEO, actually that's Brad himself, we're producing another one today. We do it on a great platform. I think we use Bizaboo and New Tech, and we do switching, and it looks like a full-blown video production, and it's done really not that expensively. You could build your own system. We call a virtual town hall production. It's been more and more utilized by corporate, applications. Of course, it's done in classrooms. This is what a classroom could be as well, right? Because it's become kind of a little mini production, and it needs to have the right remote input coming in from whether it's a Zoom environment or multiple environments, and then also from a localized student base, because I want to talk to the classroom as well. So, I do want to pause for a second, Terry, and ask Patty if there's any questions out there, because we've gone through a lot of content here in the last 40 minutes. Patty, is there anything out there we want to get addressed? I got a few more slides, but.
Okay. Well, at this moment, I'm texting out saying, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to ask them for you. Just use your chat feature, and I'm more than happy to share with others. I guess I have a question, Don. Outside of the area here, what are you seeing venues doing for this hybrid as far as meetings are concerned? Say in Atlanta, what are you seeing the Hiltons and the Hyatts doing to encourage employers to have their sales meetings there when perhaps now we have a new definition of what that looks like? I mean, I my old days, that was one of my gigs, is I would coordinate the sales meetings and bring people in from around the world. That's not happening right now.
No, and I can't say it is. I would love to say everybody's coming back. We're having our own national sales meeting in May, and we had to make a decision ourselves. We participate at Infocom ourselves, and right now we're doing our national sales meeting virtually. We did our sales training virtually for our sales academy just last month, and we had to do that virtually because we didn't feel comfortable bringing everybody into a space yet, coming from different markets. And I think this is what the point is what I've been talking about, Patty, is I don't think the event market has come back. I've talked to those that have been in, I'll call it event production, and that industry. You talk about hotels, convention centers, and producers, and those that produce rental and staging events. That has not come back yet. They're doing virtual events, though. They're producing virtual events for large organizations on a rental basis, right? You can rent our virtual event by the hour, and we're going to produce it. We're going to, just like any other event, but it's done virtually over a platform. Some might just say, let's run it on Zoom or let's run it on Teams. But if you want to have Q&A and reflection coming back and forth, that's done in a different format, a different platform. And we produce our own events, but only in a fixed installation, not in a temporary rental staging mode. And we've just seen that hasn't come back yet. That's an honest answer.
Yep. And Don, do you see the next part of that? If you had a crystal ball, do you see it coming back from an event standpoint, where everybody is there, or do you see that the venues need to start looking at a hybrid just as the office spaces do?
And we saw this with Infocom, and I hate to bring up the word China because that has a negative connotation. My apologies, I don't mean it that way. Infocom China had Infocom China, and it was back in October. And I think they had 30,000 attendees, and they all wore masks, they socially distanced. I don't think we're comfortable here in America yet to do that. As I mentioned, I use Infocom as our national organization. They were going to have it in June. Now they moved it to October. Okay. ISC, which is in Barcelona, was going to happen in June this year. I think they're going to move that out to February next year, which is their normal format. So back to saying, I think you're going to see something later in the year where, again, this goes back to the science, where people are going to start to gather in big events. Corporate events are smaller, right? We can control 10 or 20 people in a space, or 30 or 40 people gathering for a meeting in a corporate space. But when you get large venues, we saw that even with football in the fall, with both college and NFL, they were keeping capacities at 20%. So you get 20,000 people in an outdoor venue. Okay, that even the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl just pulled off. I think they had like 20 or 25,000 people at the Super Bowl, and event spaced out. Will there be a super spreader? We don't know, because we don't know what the outcome of that will be. I think the NFL and college football did a pretty good job managing this year. I'm using that as an example, being a college football fan. They were at 20% capacity in those stadiums, but you're talking about 80 or 90 or 100,000 people. And I don't think the University of Wisconsin had any attendees. I don't believe they did this year. I think it was closed off. In the South, it was different. They were able to do that. And I think the NFL's done that in some markets as well. So it's just, again, back to the fear factor. As science brings us,
I guess, Don, where I was coming from was, do you see it being a hybrid? When eventually, when it gets to that point where some people feel comfortable, do you see venues being a hybrid, and you're going to have some attendees virtual, some in person? Or do you think the switch is going to flip completely, and when everybody feels comfortable, then the sales meeting and everybody comes?
we were going to do ours hybrid. And we talked about it. Terry, you remember this? And I was the one who said, I don't think we should do it hybrid. We are actually asking people, some want to attend, some don't want to attend. We're kind of prioritizing who should go, not go because of their personal. We went 100% virtual in our own, and we would have had 300 people at our national sales meeting in April. And we moved it to May. We're going 100% virtual. I think it's going to have to be, everybody's healthy. Everybody feels comfortable. The fear factor's gone. The pandemic has now come to a contained rate. People have been vaccinated, herd immunities at 70% or whatever the number is going to be. Then I think you'll see people come back to events. Will they mask? Probably for a while. When will the mask go away? When we all feel comfortable. The Spanish flu was 2 years. It was just 2 solid years, and we're only in not even the first year of this. So I know we all want to get back in the event space, because we all love events. We all do. We're human beings. So this has been a tenuous time for all. And I don't know if a hybrid answers the question on the events. I just don't see people wanting to be near and far. I think you saw in the NFL or in college football, that was a hybrid event. Some on television, right? So it was like a 20% ratio. Maybe it could be, but I'm not as close to that production and event and staging industry as I used to be. I do know their numbers are way down, much lower than the systems integration space. Some numbers are 80, 90%.
Yeah. One of the things that I've seen is I'm seeing a lot of places that are in some construction phases or building phases. They're looking at larger rooms. There is actually an insurance company up in Stevens Point, one of our customers, Century Insurance. They're building their own hotel. So they have control of what it's like when their people are coming into training. There's a lot of hotels and places out here that have large venues. They can take advantage and help some of these clients they have use their venue, but that equipment has to be ready. It has to be prepared. It has to have the necessary equipment in to make it usable for somebody to do a hybrid. Because I think a hybrid conversation type of meeting is the way we're going to see. I don't think there's going to be a big flip the switch type thing and everybody go back to work or go back to meetings. I'd love to see it, but it's going to be slow. And, the other thing is we're northern Wisconsin, and we're a bit more stubborn to get new technology and to step into something. We'd much rather have Atlanta, Chicago, California do it and let us know.
Right.
A question, gentlemen, a question came in for Don. So when events are more local, for example, job fairs, will people be more likely to gather?
Again, being focused on corporate education and government, I'm not as, again, it is involved in the, I'll call it the event space. Uh, I really don't have a clear answer on that one. And I don't mean to be subversive. I think if it was outdoors, I think you'll see more of that. Job fairs is a great one because people want to get back. You know, we have a 6% unemployment rate in the country or whatever, 6.5. What a great way to, and I think there is hiring going on now in the professional space. I see more of that. I think people are getting ready for that. So a job fair would be a great one. Wouldn't it be great if we have an outdoor job fair? Being in Wisconsin with the weather this winter, it's hard to have an outdoor job fair. I mean, look at
You're right, Don.
restaurants. I mean,
We're tenacious. Yeah, we're tenacious, but we're not quite that tenacious.
Right. And look at restaurants, what they've done to innovate themselves, that they built these structures outdoors that, you know, have some heaters, and we see quite a transcendence there. I think you'll see more as the weather warms up for the upper Midwest, and we're seeing, obviously we get our cold down here too, but we get our nice days. You'll see more people trying to get outside to do events like a job fair. Could easily be done this time of year down here. Wisconsin might be more in the spring when it warms up. Something like that could take place outdoors. I think anything outdoors is more safe than indoors. And that's how you could have an event production. Will there be rock concerts outdoors? I think that's been pretty thin from what we see from an event production. So I don't know if I clearly answered the question, but not my area of expertise anymore. It used to be, but I just don't see events right now coming back as quickly as we're seeing corporate America, education, trying to build hybrid spaces for their environments. We see it much, and again, that industry's been hit harder.
Yep.
I do want to allude, Terry, to this one slide here, and I want to make sure everybody gets a copy of this. And somehow, some way, let's get this to Patty, and that people can click on these videos. There's really 6 of them. I wanted to play the one on inspiration happens when we're together. And that's one that Brad did back in the fall. And then thermal screening solutions for audiovisual, virtual reception solutions under our digital media practice. And then bring your own meeting. We talked about touchless and BYOD, your own phone or pad. And then the people counting solution and the occupancy management solution. Those are specific solutions that we'll be happy to share, Patty, with you and the chamber attendees today, that you can take your own time. It's probably on YouTube channels, but I think, Terry, if we could get that out to Patty and get it out to teams, I think it'd be good for those to view those, to get some ideas of what's going out there today and what applications we're seeing as I talk to today.
Thank you, Don.
If you go to YouTube and go to put in AVI Impact into YouTube, these will pop up and other videos, and feel free to look right through at those. Those are outstandingly done.
Good.
Great. And then what we'll do too is for Terry can send me that, and then I'm more than happy for those people that attended, I can send that out, links directly into an email for them.
That's what we'll do then. So I've only got a couple things here left, and then I want to open it up and we'll take down the slide. So 3 pre-pandemic trends that we think are going to endure. The new tech dilemma. We believe this generation wants to collaborate. They want to get together. They want to socialize. And I talked a little bit about what that workforce looks like in the generational gap, and also in what open spaces look like. People want to gather. And I think that's kind of the new tech dilemma that's through different generations.
Yeah, Don, and that's one of the things that we really got to look at is the use case that everybody has, from the baby boomers on what they want to be able to do to the millennials. We've got to make sure right now, because we're kind of in a different area where we have 4 different generations right now in the workforce, and it's how do we make it work for everybody and give them the need that they want to come back, and not make it cumbersome for one, but meet the expectations.
Yep. And then the other one is, and no, we did not take this picture of Door County or Appleton area, the silos. This is purposely done for silos and ecosystems. So as we saw the pre-pandemic trends that will endure over time, is that we need to be able to integrate multiple ecosystems. So think about it. Think about, this is a Zoom call today. What if others wanted to join with Microsoft Teams? Or what if somebody wanted to join with Cisco WebEx, so they couldn't do any other way? we can help that interoperability. Now, Zoom's been a real common one for everybody to gather, especially across, I'll call it the consumerism of video conferencing. We think Zoom's been at the forefront of that, right? Well, so is Microsoft Teams in the corporate environment, and so is Cisco, and they won't be forgotten. So all of these silos and ecosystems need to come together as one. So I'm kind of going to land it here and say, you want to plan for experiences or plan for what we call technical debt. As you look forward now in this pandemic, post-pandemic era, technical debt is where you invest in something that doesn't work. And that debt now is debt in your pocket that's dead. And that's not what our strategy is at AVI Systems. Our practice model and how we build out different solution sets for our customers, listening to each customer's needs required specifically for their spaces, and knowing what we're seeing in the marketplace, being a global integrator, we see a lot of opportunities across several sectors and segments in corporate education and government that we can share. So I want to kind of land it here, and I think I'm going to stop sharing and then come back to the general group.
Well, I'm
going
to throw up and I'm going to share a screen up here.
Please.
Just for people to take a peek at. Hopefully you can see it.
Yep, you're just starting. Here it goes. Yep.
So this is an event that we're also hosting today at 1 o'clock. And it's a deeper dive into what we discussed over here. And feel free to hop on, register for the event, and take a look, because we know what people are looking for, what people are asking for. But it's really, how do you find it without getting a lot of salesy speech?
And that's going to be a great event this afternoon, Terry. And we wish we could get, we hope all of you can join us, or a majority of you can. You'll get a lot out of this. This will be what workplace safety looks like today. And again, it's a continuation of the conversation that we just had on this call today. But if you get some time, this is at 1 o'clock Central. There's your registration. We have over 500 registrations right now, Terry, which was kind of our goal. So the last one we did in the fall, we had 1,100, and we had 600 sustained of all different sectors in corporate America, in education and government. So we welcome all of you to this afternoon. Like I do is go on there and register, and then make sure you visit our YouTube location. Terry, I think that's one's important, is to watch that return to work video that Brad did in the fall. I know we didn't show it today based on time, but Patty, want to open it back up to you for any questions or how we can help. We got a couple of minutes here to top of the hour.
Perfect. I am open for questions. I don't see any at this point. This is one just came in. Can you please provide a copyable link to that webinar? We can certainly do that for you. And I'll send it out to all the participants today so that you have that.
It was in that last slide, so we should copy it and put it in the chat, or somehow if we could do that, or get that off to Patty to get to everybody, that link.
Okay, otherwise I have everyone done it. I mean, I'll even make it easier for them. I will send it directly to their emails.
Thank you so much. That'll be wonderful.
Absolutely.
So that to answer that question from Sylvia, I think it was. Do I see some other chats here? I can actually open this up.
Bobby asked about job fairs, and will people be more likely to gather or do the click-through job fairs?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Some of my customers are actually doing that. They're kind of doing what I call a hybrid on that. The first interview is really virtual, and then they're inviting more of the clients in that they're looking to interview and have a conversation. But I think, if you have like a virtual job fair and do it, and if you spaced it out and had time period and people scheduled time, kind of like when you went to get the COVID testing over at UW Oshkosh, you had a time you scheduled and you waited till you could go through and work your way through. I think that's going to be an ideal way to do a job fair.
There are, I'm going to chime in here. UW Oshkosh is using a platform similar to that, and they are going to be having it next week. And I know UW-Madison, some of their schools do the same thing. So you're right, Terry. It can be done virtually, but it's sure a lot better when you can be there in person. So, All right, well, we are coming up. We are on 11 o'clock. Don, we appreciate you joining us from
Welcome.
where you are in. This is where you get to tell us what the temperature is.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't make it up. I have to go to my application on my phone called Weather Central, the weather channel, right? Because the Weather Channel is headquartered down here. 58 degrees here. Whoa,
65.
65 degrees. It went up. Oh, then I gotta, yep, here we go.
Here we go.
65 degrees. And
Now we
sunny.
can live vicariously, people.
Yeah, there's a sunny
Thank you.
day out there. It's warm. So thank you,
Yep.
Patty.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Terry, anything you'd like to add?
No, just thank you. And, feel free to reach out to us at avisystems.com. Appleton, if you go to the website, we're the first one on the links to click, and feel free to call. And, don't feel like you're asking us an obscure question. That's really where we really strive, is actually finding somebody's need and finding a solution to fit it.
All right. Thank you all, and wishing everyone a great day.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Patty. Thank you,
Thank you.
Chamber. Bye-bye.
But
Bye-bye.